It's interesting. It's fascinating because you can look at all the history and all the things going from the very beginning all the way up until now, and you can see every play that has been put in place in order to make this happen. And you can see how I always look at it is, I think the rabbis also look at it, prophecies patterns. We see the repeat of what has happened Old Testament that is now happening now. And we look at things like the Tower of Babel. We see what was going on there. It's basically a reconstruction of what we see there, where you have the unholy pagan trinity, Nimrod, Semiramis, Tammuz, where they controlled the government. They were the religion. He was worshipped as this king that he was able to kill the bull and type of stuff. And so we see this mystery religion be birthed from there, and then God scattered them, and you see them take that religion out all across the world, and they form all these different ones, including Catholicism. But ultimately, they're all built upon the same principle. And you talk about, how they went out and killed the Protestants. You look at people like the Knights Templar. Well, they were built upon Gnosticism, which was ultimately what was going on back in the day. And so they were out killing these people in the name, and they will worship people like the Baphomet, which that has connection to things of ancient Egypt. You look at people like Hermes Trismegistus and the Emerald Tablets and all these things. The Knights Templar were in constant communication and worshiping the same thing that was going on there. People would view those as two different religions, but ultimately it's the same thing that's all under the house of the Catholic rule. And so we're seeing prophetic patterns. Am I off on that, or what do you think?
No, in fact, we just did a deep dive. We just finished our resource on Freemasonry. We did a 10-week study, book, DVD set, and what have you. Satan's Secret Society. And one of the big underpinnings of Freemasonry, and you mentioned Knights Templar, is this belief that basically you can choose whatever path you want to follow. This universal religion mindset. That is not just a New Age concept. It's not just being promoted by the Catholicism, the universal Roman religion, so that they can control all religions. It's a huge pillar of Freemasonry. Go figure.
Yeah, and they're one of the people who's in major control of what we see going on. Specifically, look at the world wars. That's always one of the big indicators for me. They planned these 3 world wars, and some people want to say, well, he didn't actually write that, and it was off on timing. But the thing is even if he didn't necessarily write it the way that we believe it is, the fact is everything that was written according to what we read has unfolded identical, word for word, exactly how it said it was. And so they like to say, well, it was written by this other guy at this time. Well, that time that you gave is actually before these wars. So you're telling me that it proves itself true.
Yeah, exactly. And I would agree with you too. I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, are naysayers about the 3 world wars from Albert Pike. I tend to agree that if you do the research, no, there's legitimacy to it. And I agree with you. It's prior. I think that's easy to demonstrate. It's prior, regardless, to World War I. And specifically, when you look at the events of World War I and the people who were involved in Bavaria and starting that First World War, they were Freemasons. So there's another layer that doesn't typically get brought up. But that's what they said, that they need to bring the Luciferian order. And what's the Luciferian order? The Luciferian order is, shocker, a one world government, combine all the religions, and under a one world leader. And that's Lucifer's way to create utopia to the planet. They believe that's the way to go. And so this is straight out of Freemasonry. But again, the Bible is the only book on the planet that tells you what it is. You can call it the Luciferian order all you want. You can call it Freemasonry. You can call it the New Age, Age of Aquarius. You can call it the New World Order. It's the Antichrist kingdom. And that's why I say, man, all you got to do, you don't have to be a master of Bible prophecy, but if you just understand what I call the big guns, understand just some basic premises that we all can agree on, that there's going to come a one world government, a one world economy that is cashless because it turns into a mark of the beast system and a one world religion. That's the big underpinnings of that. And then when you see that, then you can start putting everything that's going on in the world right now into play. And that's what's going on. But the 3 world wars, the first one, out of the ashes of that, was going to lead to the second one that was specifically dealing with the Nazis and the Jewish people, that was going to lead to the Jewish state, that was going to create a problem specifically with the Muslims to foment and allow to foment for a while, which it has been, and to create the final world war that they think is a good thing. And then that's when basically you have the destruction of what they believe will be of Christianity, and then the destruction of atheism, which is our world with evolution, the lie. And then out of that, it's all been planned. Out of that clash, then people become, and this is Pike's words, they'll become so disillusioned, then they'll be finally ripe to receive the next religion, not atheism, not Christianity, but Luciferian worship. And then you go back to the Antichrist, who they think is a good guy, and that's what he requires, that he is God. That was the fall of Satan. Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28. I will be like God. I will be the like the Most High. I will ascend to the Mount of Assembly. Right. So Satan's fall was he wanted to be God. Right. And so here's the Antichrist. Right. Satan's man, and that's what he does. He declares, "I am God," like Satan, and you must worship me. That's Luciferian worship. But that's what these guys think is a good thing, and that's why they staged 3 world wars. Right. And they're getting close to the third one, the final one that they believe is what's going to bring this in.
And it's interesting because you look, they believe that the Freemasons believe that, Lucifer, Satan is the good one. Well, ultimately, again, pin that back. And I always say, just if you're not sure where to go, just take it all the way back to the very beginning, because you look at what happened in the Garden of Eden when Satan tempted Eve. Well, if you eat of this fruit, you will be like God. That was the birth of Gnosticism. It's something that I think people really need to have a true understanding of, because Gnostic belief, if you look at the texts, they reverse the order. God, or the demiurge, is the bad guy who locked us in this prison, and Sophia sent down Satan in order to free us from that prison. So ultimately, when they believe in that, they believe Satan is the good guy. Yeah,
and you look back, and this is something, Gnosticism, that is even dealt with in the New Testament, and the church had to deal with this lie even back then. And basically, Gnosticism comes from gnosis, which means wisdom or knowledge. Sophia, also Saphos in the Greek, meaning wisdom. But it's this idea of secret wisdom, secret knowledge. Like, hey, listen, I know you think you got the truth, right? But we've got this secret knowledge, right? And we got these secret, and really what I'm describing, the whole mindset of Freemasonry, amongst other entities that do the same thing, that they're the only way, they got the secret knowledge. You guys got it wrong. Satan's really a good guy, all that stuff. But certainly that's Freemasonry. That's why it's called a secret society, because they have the secret knowledge. What is this? I agree with this. Gnosticism, right? You got it wrong in your church. You need to come here and take the bloody oaths. And the first bloody oath, you are blindfolded with what's called, you're hoodwinked. That's where we get the word hoodwink. It's a Freemason term. They blindfold you. And then the first thing you have to denounce is anything that you've ever learned, including anything from the Bible, that was darkness. And now you're coming into the light, Luciferian light of Freemasonry, the secret knowledge. And then you proceed to have to take the bloody oaths, right? And I'm sitting there going like, I don't know how anybody can get even past the first degree with the bloody oaths, let alone all 3, right? Because people say, well, I just went through the first 3 degrees. I didn't know it was Luciferian. Oh, skip 3. Let's just deal with the first one. The first time you walk into a building and they put a blindfold on you, they hoodwink you and tell you got to renounce everything you've ever known, and that this is coming into now the secret new knowledge, the secret light of Freemasonry. You wouldn't have any motivation to run. And then they take your shirt off. No joke. Then you got to bow before an altar, still hoodwinked. And you got to worship. You got to bow before what's called the worshipful master. And you're supposed to be a Christian. I don't bow before anybody. The one and only master, Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And then they put a sword to your chest. And then you got to take the bloody oath that you will not reveal any secrets, gnosis, of this organization that has the supposed true light. You've been in darkness your whole life. Under the penalty, if you reveal, you admit you have to do from ear to ear with your thumb. You got it with the slit of your throat, that you cut out my tongue, and you'll open up my bowels and basically feed me to the birds and blah, 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 blah. And you're supposed to be a Christian. And it's at no point the Holy Spirit said, hey, run. That's just the first degree, Zach. I don't buy it. I think that's just an excuse for people to compromise. And dare I say, and then you made it through the first 3 and says, well, I didn't know anything was wrong. How did you make it that far and not run for the door? It's crazy.
I think a lot of it has to do. You brought up the thing where it says the Holy Spirit didn't say, "Hey, run." Well, the question comes in: do you even have the Holy Spirit at that point?
Bingo. And that's what I'm convinced. Only God knows the heart. Only God knows the heart.
Yep.
But I would say that, come on, those that you still to this day try to rationalize it. Paul says in Romans chapter 8, if you don't have the Spirit of Christ, you don't belong to Christ. You would think at some point the Holy Spirit of God would convict you to the core, especially if you were told you have to renounce everything you believed in and consider it darkness. And that would include Jesus Christ and the gospel if you profess to be a Christian. And then swear allegiance to them instead of Jesus. I don't know how you do it, man. I'm going like, how can you be a Christian and accept that, let alone try to rationalize it? That's not a good sign to me.